What am I to do?
Welcome to Razor Branding Podcast with Jackie Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandrusso.com.
Hi, welcome to the Razor Branding Podcast. We're on hour 743, 11, although it feels like more, of our all-day long podcast marathon in honor of National Podcast Day. Every hour, we're talking to a different nonprofit, discussing what they do, how they do it, what their needs are, the vacuum that they fill in the community, the void that they help out with, and hopefully raise some much-needed funds for them. And I am so excited that I'm going to get to talk to Raymond Hebert at the Community Foundation of Acadiana, who's going to talk all about CFA and what they've got going on. So, Raymond, how are things at the Community Foundation?
Things are well. We're having a good year despite the craziness of this year. But thank you for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here. So for people who haven't had the experience of interacting with the Community Foundation before, you're not the normal, regular, average, everyday, run-of-the-mill nonprofit organization. Talk to us about what you do in that kind of umbrella capacity of how you fill the needs of this community.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. And you're right. There are nonprofits, there are several different nonprofits throughout the country, and everybody has a different specific objective, typically specific objective. In our world, we're one of about 750 community foundations around the country. We're not a franchise of a national entity. We're all independent. Every community foundation is different because every community is different. So when you've met one community foundation, you've met one community foundation. In our world, we're one of 7 in the state, and I'm proud to say we're the 3rd largest community foundation in the state. We were founded 20 years ago, so we're happy to celebrate our 20th birthday in November. So we're excited about that. It's hard to believe 20 years already. But to your point, we're not a service organization per se. We are in the business of enhancing and growing philanthropy. We're trying to get people to give more, and we're trying to get more people to give. And we offer an attractive venue for that, if you will. There are a lot of great organizations that are what I call in the trenches every day. They're on the front lines. We're not that. But hopefully the dollars that generous donors and philanthropists entrust us with can be employed, if you will, to help those good nonprofits, churches, schools, hospitals, other public entities do the fine work that they do. So we do a lot of different things, but one of our primary services is the establishment of charitable or philanthropic funds that folks name, and they are as actively involved as they want to be thereafter.
So at what level does somebody start to think, I have enough accumulated now, and I have this cause that's near and dear to my heart, I'm going to turn to the Community Foundation, and they're going to help me kind of put it all together? I mean, is there a minimum where you think, okay, now you can do something with that?
Yeah, so great question. I think folks would first of all be surprised at how little it takes to get plugged in, if you will. But to be fair and to answer your question, everybody's at a different stage of life. Everybody has different capacities, and everybody has different objectives. So one guy might come to me and set up a fund that in which he deposits charitable dollars, and from which he makes distributions, immediately and ongoing. I could have a family, for example, that might want to set up a different type of fund in memory of parents or grandparents, and they could combine even limited resources to establish something that's permanent, something that would benefit what was important to their parents or grandparents or their family. So the one misconception is that we only deal with people of significant wealth. We certainly do have some folks that have means, but we have other folks like my wife and I that have limited means, and we can also be plugged into the foundation and be involved.
How many different funds do you help, coordinate, manage, facilitate?
We have right now probably 350 funds or so. Yeah, so the beauty is, unlike establishing a private family foundation, for example, which is a separate legal entity, you're creating a separate business, if you will. This is what the IRS regards as a component fund under our umbrella. It's really just a component fund of the community foundation. So it literally takes 5 or 6 minutes to establish such a fund. They're real easy. And the beauty is, another misconception is folks are a little anxious because they think they have to have all of the answers today on what they want to do today and 20 years and 50 years from now. And that's not true. We have an easy onboarding process where folks can get their feet wet, sometimes even get their toes wet. But they have all the time in the world. They can have a succession plan to their fund, but they have all the time in the world to figure that out, because as you and I know, what we're thinking today, we're going to be thinking a little differently of 20 years from now. So
right.
It's very easy and very flexible and very customizable, if you will.
Well, you talk about CFA having its 20th anniversary in November. Brand Russo is going to be 20 in February. And I just think about what I thought 20 years ago is so dramatically different from where we are now. You can't really anticipate these days. I think all future annual planners should be basically big whiteboards, so we can facilitate all the changes that are going to have to happen. Because really, who could have predicted pandemic and massive oil stock price drops and wildfires and social unrest and all the other things that this year has brought to us? You never know. And so I love the fact that people could come to you today and set something up and then grow into it and through it as the years develop.
Absolutely. And to your point, look at how much we don't know and how much we just can't plan. So Lafayette will arguably be a different town after this, whenever this oil and gas downturn is completed, if it's ever completed. But it's not going to be the same town. It's not going to be the same community. But I have to tell you, I remain humbled on a daily basis at how charitable and philanthropic and caring people are. It really does the heart, warms the heart to know that. And people just want to give, they want to help, they want to be there. And that means a lot. And of course, it's really the fabric of our community, of our culture. So
when I first moved back from Los Angeles, so this was late 90s, I read an article in, maybe it was the Daily Advertiser, the Times of Acadiana, the Advocate, one of those publications. And I don't know if this is an accurate recollection or if what I read was even accurate at the time, but it said that Lafayette had more donors and nonprofits and that kind of thing per capita than most other communities. Is that true? Was that accurate? Are we an overly charitable area, or is it the exact opposite? Because I've heard recently that that's the exact opposite. So where do we fall in terms of our generosity as a community?
Yeah, so good question. I don't know about the article you read. I can't opine on that one way or another.
Well, it was 30 years ago. I can't remember either, so you're off the hook on that.
Yeah, I can't remember what I wore yesterday. But the one statistic I'll share with you that I think is interesting. Our foundation was fortunate enough to be listed in some top 100 statistics for a couple of years, and one of which was highest giving per capita. And so for Community Foundation of Acadiana, which has an 8-parish footprint, highest giving per capita spoke volumes to me. And really, it had less to do about the community foundation and more about our area. And so that is a fairly recent statistic or identification, which is pretty impressive. And so we like to brag about that. We like to help our neighbors in need, and I think people are still doing that and still want to do that.
Well, and I think that today's a great day for us to give people a chance to do that. And so Community Foundation of Acadiana has a Mighty Cause page. And so if anybody wants to donate, they can. And let's do more that we can to facilitate your efforts to help other organizations facilitate their efforts. I mean, when you're talking about that number of different funds and charitable causes that you're helping to encourage and nurture and grow, that is great. And so I think that bodes well for the time, talent, and treasure, dedication, and donation that our community is apparently actually ranked for. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Look, I'll just give you a quick snapshot. By the end of this year, we will likely surpass 300 million in total gifts to and through the foundation. We've deployed about half of that for discussion purposes. About 150 million has been deployed in the community, almost exclusively donor directed, but those are some big numbers. And for our area, for our community, when the foundation was founded in 2000, there was some initial conversation back in the 1980s. I kind of wish it would have been established back then. There's no telling where we'd be now, but those numbers just give you a snapshot at how generous folks are. And by the way, we're a new organization. It's not as if people quit giving to other organizations. This is just above and beyond. So it's a pretty impressive statistic.
So you said that we were the third largest in the state. Does that mean that Baton Rouge is the largest with BRAF?
Absolutely, yeah. Baton Rouge Area Foundation is the largest. They're about a $600 million foundation. They have a very unique and unusual subsidiary. It's a real estate development company, believe it or not, that somebody donated to the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. Someone donated a viable, competitive real estate development company. So that's a very unique asset for that foundation. Greater New Orleans Foundation, Ganoff is second in line. They're about 400 million in assets. We're third with about 150 million in assets. And then Shreveport is maybe 130, 140 million in assets.
So I'm super competitive. I need to make sure that we stay ahead of Shreveport, and I'd really like to kick New Orleans' butt at some point soon. So I'm going to figure out what I can do to help facilitate that. So if anybody's looking to dedicate or donate a successful, thriving real estate development company, they can note that in the comments, and I'm sure you'll be happy to help them.
Yeah. So the other thing about community foundations is that community foundations probably have the most flexible charitable philanthropic mandate than any other nonprofits out there. So, for example, in Kansas City, the owners of the Kansas City Royals actually donated the professional baseball team to the community foundation in Kansas City, along with $100 million, and along with the stipulation that if they ever sold the team, the new owner would commit to keeping it in Kansas City. And so just gives you an idea of the breadth and width of a community foundation. And there are such endeavors like this all over. Look, in Alexandria, the Rapides Foundation was established as a result of the sale of a nonprofit hospital to a for-profit hospital. And so the community had this bucket of cash with which they established the Rapides Foundation. So the flexibility is virtually unlimited. And we do have some very interesting discussions, folks planning, folks thinking ahead and trying to be creative and entrepreneurial. We deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're entrepreneurial in their philanthropy as well.
Right. And I feel like CFA had a pretty vital role in the creation of Munkus Park. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I think we had a nice role. They're running and blowing and going. We had a role for a few years in some discussions very confidentially about the structure and what this could look like. We created Lafayette Central Park, Inc., the nonprofit, and it's not answerable to us or controlled by us, but we did have a role in at least getting that started. But Lenny Lamar and those guys are just doing a phenomenal job. E.B. Brooks is a terrific asset to this community, and it's going to be a beautiful park once it's open to everyone.
Oh, I agree. We're going to be talking to them in the 7 o'clock hour. So I look forward to that. Denise Longclaw has posted, she says, we live in one of the most generous Christian communities in the country. We have great resources in many ways, funds, talent, volunteers, etc. She goes on to say, I believe we are seeing unprecedented wealth and prosperity during this generation. Lots of great works can be done. Great job, Mr. Raymond Hebert and the CFA staff. Excellent.
Thank you, Denise. Beautiful, wonderful,
Right.
wonderful person.
And so, Raymond, as you look to the future, I think this has been such an unprecedented year of challenges. What do you see our community doing to emerge out of all of the hardships between the falling oil and gas prices and the pandemic and all the other challenges that have faced us? Where do you see us heading? Where are you driving Community Foundation in the future?
I think I'm guilty of what a lot of folks are guilty of, is just considering oil and gas would be king forever and a day, and just can't imagine that would ever change. Well, the landscape has changed pretty dramatically. Our university is extremely important to our community and our region. The university arguably made Lafayette, not vice versa. And so we all say education is king, education is key. And so I think we can't ever take that for granted. We can't ever take our university for granted. We need to continue to grow it and support it as much as possible. We've got a healthy medical environment here that's strong and healthy and continuing to morph and evolve and grow, as well as our technology. I think I credit city leaders in years past that kind of set us up for something different from oil and gas. And we have in fiber to the premise, we have something that many communities would only dream of having. So I think we're in good field position considering, but we can't rest on our laurels. We've got to continue to plug along and continue to retain and attract new businesses here. I see a very bright future for Lafayette. I continue to argue Lafayette and New Orleans are two of the most culturally unique communities in the state, and they continue to attract folks, and we need to continue hammering that away.
I like that you just jumped right over Baton Rouge, and I agree with your assessment of geographically where you headed in that story, because I think that is New Orleans and Lafayette that make the communities unique and make the state unique, and everything else is just, a part of Texas or Arkansas. So when I think about the impact this year has had, what have you done to advise the different funds that are under the CFA umbrella to help them stay the course? Because I'm sure it's been very troubling with the economic uncertainty of this year.
Yeah, so a few things, I guess some bullets. I'm proud to say Community Foundation of Acadiana has granted or employed roughly $50 million over the course of these 20 years, directed toward disaster. And now we can add the word emergency relief because of the pandemic. Starting back in 2005 with hurricanes Katrina and Rita, to the most recent hurricane Laura, as well as the pandemic. So folks want to give and they want to help. We continue to try to encourage folks to employ some of their resources. I guess a couple of things. One is the nonprofit sector, like any other sector, has been affected negatively because of the pandemic. Those nonprofits out there that are doing good work, that are in the trenches, they're on the front lines every day, they continue to need financial support from the general public. So we encourage our donors to do so, and several of them have stepped up to the plate and are doing so. As far as our neighbors to the west in Lake Charles, we've also introduced our sister community foundation, the Community Foundation of Southwest Louisiana, to our donors, because they're on the front lines trying to attract dollars nationally and internationally to help with the hurricane relief. The difference this year is the pandemic. It's a game changer for everyone. So in the past, when we've had a flood or we've had a hurricane or something, it's been pretty concentrated. And so folks that are not affected nationally will send money to that cause. The pandemic is a game changer because everybody's affected. Everybody's economies are affected. So I think the dollars are a little less uh, easy to come by, if you will, but we continue to promote those opportunities for donors to give. Something else that is key for us is a few years ago, we initiated something called South Louisiana Giving Day. And it is growing legs, and it is going to be, I think, the premier fundraising arm in South Louisiana in short order. So in 3 short years, we've attracted over $3.4 million, and to benefit 100 plus nonprofit organizations. But Jackie, the statistics that stand out for me most are these. We've had donors now from 41 different states and 2 other countries. And what's cool about that is these are what we call unusual suspects, right? They're not the same people that give every time, but these are people that are somehow, some way connected to a nonprofit that's participating, or they're connected to Eunice or Morgan City, or they're connected to Acadiana somehow, and they can easily give because it's a social media driven event. So if nonprofits are out there listening, I want to encourage them to seriously consider making the South Louisiana Giving Day a strategic part of their fundraising efforts. If they could be strategic and they could be specific in their ask, they can have a lot of success. We've had some nonprofits that have walked away with an unbelievable amount of money. They would never be able to have a fundraiser to raise that kind of money, but it's easy, it's affordable, it's doable. We encourage nonprofits today, this year, to look into it and sign up to participate. Our next day is May 6th of 2021.
May 6th. Okay. And so where do they go to do that? On the Community Foundation of Acadiana website?
That's right. cfacadiana.org or solagivingday.org. solagivingday.org.
And do you think part of that success is coming from the timeliness of it, to say this is a day, it's a specific time frame, it's a specific ask, a specific need, and so that helps people get their head around it? It's not some like year-long ask. It's a very concentrated effort.
Yeah, I think 3 things. One is exactly what you're saying. It's a targeted date, and so it gives people a sense of urgency and a call to action. The second thing is it's so doggone easy. You can give without having to get dressed to go out somewhere. You don't have to sponsor something. You can just give to what matters to you most. But Jackie, the real magic happens when a nonprofit is fortunate enough to get a match. So for example, John Doe will put up $10,000 if the ABC nonprofit can raise at least $10,000. Well, that gives the ABC nonprofit the call to action to push it out to their stakeholders. And I'm telling you, it works. It works handsomely. It works beautifully. The donors that are putting up the match couldn't be more pleased. The nonprofits couldn't be more pleased. So that to me is the recipe for success.
I love it. And I love the way that that's going to work together. All 3 of those prongs kind of helping to support each other and pop that tent up. All of a sudden, you're talking about doing some real good. What did y'all raise on the last Solar Giving Day? It was a pretty hefty amount from what I recall.
Yeah, so the last Giving Day was in May of this year. And candidly, we had some discussions, lots of them, about whether or not we should implement the Giving Day, because we were in the thick of the pandemic then. And we were more confused then than we are now about what to do and what not to do. But what made our decision were the nonprofits that signed up to participate. They wanted us to go ahead and give them the opportunity. And as a result, we raised almost $870,000 to benefit 95 nonprofit organizations. 2,500, almost 2,600 different donations from various folks. Like I said, from, in this case, over 41 states and 2 other countries. It
That
worked.
is so impressive.
It
I
worked.
mean, really, that is so impressive. Hopefully one day our little bitty baby podcast marathon can grow up to follow your lead, because I think that's exactly the magic formula there for getting people to really dig in and help out. That's awesome.
It is. It is. makes it easy. It makes it almost democratic. Everybody can give. Anybody can give any amount. Some folks like to give completely anonymously. We got their back. We can cover that. But just to give you an idea of scope, the North Texas Giving Day is the most successful giving day in the country. They have an 18-hour day, and last year raised over $55 million in an 18-hour period. So the potential is virtually unlimited.
Wow, that is astonishing.
Yeah, so we're very proud of our South Louisiana Giving Day. Lauren Coffin is our champion and is doing a phenomenal job. So we're looking forward to our fourth one on May 6th of 2021.
Holy cow. I mean, they're a bigger market than us. I understand that. They're a far more vibrant economy than ours, sure. But that is still just astonishing.
Yeah, it gives you an idea of the potential, at least, for such an endeavor.
You'll get us there in what, 2-3 years?
Yeah, we think so.
I love that.
And talk then. We'll see.
Right. So, you were talking about how easy it is to set up a fund in the foundation. And you mentioned when families get together. And I love that concept, as we should generationally be passing down good traits to our kids, encouraging them to serve and volunteer and give. This seems to me like a great way to enforce that through words and actions by having that family unit come together. How many different families do you have that have kind of set up funds? And, I don't want to cross the line of any confidentiality, but what kind of efforts or endeavors do they tend to support?
Well, it's a great question. So we have several families that have set up funds for various reasons and at various levels. I think the most common theme among them all is that they are trying to develop a philanthropic culture in their families. Mm-hmm. And some of these families have very young children. Some have grown children and grandchildren, but they're trying to create a culture of philanthropy among their family, which I think is beautiful. And a donor advised fund, which is our most popular type of fund, makes that real easy. So the family could get together at Thanksgiving or Christmas or any time of the year as frequently as they want and have a discussion about who they want to support, what they want to support, and it's a powerful tool. Others are more sophisticated. They've got boards, so they're a little more formal in their philanthropy. Again, some of them just kind of under the radar. They want to do things anonymously. But to answer your question, what is it that they support? It covers the gamut, really. I think if I had to pick any one field of interest, it would be health and human services. People like to give to benefit those that are less fortunate. So St. Joseph Shelter, United Way, those kinds of organizations that are in the trenches helping those that are in need. People like to do that, and that's always impressive.
We talked to Carly Omlabar last hour, and she was talking about United Way and their 3 E's with earnings, education, and essentials. And I feel like I'm hearing a lot of similar discussion around how you guide and advise the funds, because it really is about providing those human services and making sure that people have the things, the bare minimum of the things that they need to make the world a better place. And so I commend you and your staff and your team for all the work that y'all are doing, because I think this is how we continue to celebrate the greatness of Acadiana.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Carly is a wonderful person and doing a wonderful job. And it's true. It's at the end of the day, there's some folks that have other interests, but I think globally, people want to help our neighbors and friends in need that just need a hand up, if you will. And so, of course, several nonprofits, like I said, are in the trenches every day. They're on the front lines. We're not that, but I hope that the work we do here at CFA can help enhance philanthropy, and that all of these good people with which we deal can help employ their dollars to help all of our organizations that are helping those in need.
Right. I mean, it's such an interesting thing to me to think about how charity begins at home. And so this is an amazing way for people to truly help their neighbor, help their own community, help people just across town where we all need it so much. You know, I'm reminded of some things that I heard earlier from Missy Andrade at Boys and Girls Club and the work that they're doing on the front lines, obviously a different kind of work, but to really help make sure we're positioning the youth in our community for success. And I feel like you're doing that at the same way, but just a very different level with these funds and positioning them for success so that through them, good work can be done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so in our world, donors that want to give, I'll use Boys and Girls Club as an example. Donors can give directly from their funds to Boys and Girls Club, and they do. But in our world, donors could also consider the longevity or the long-term benefit to Boys and Girls Club. For example, the John and Jane Doe Family Endowment for the benefit of the Boys and Girls Club, right? So we do a lot of immediate giving. Donors have liquid funds in their assets in their funds, and we grant them out. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to promote and remind folks that we're also in the business of permanent endowments. Mm-hmm. So permanent endowments could be an individual or a family setting up an endowment to benefit a particular nonprofit like Boys and Girls Club or a church or a school or even a parish. We have several funds now for each of our 8 parish area. And those are very unique because all they do is generate discretionary dollars that can be used at our discretion within those parishes. So my point is we're sort of a marathon runner, if you will. We're in the business of setting up funds immediately that can be employed immediately, but we're also long-term and we're in the permanent endowment business as well.
Well, and I love the idea of a permanent endowment. I think that people often think of that maybe in association with universities and schools, but this is a way to provide permanent endowments for any organization that matters to them. And then you're not just making a one-time contribution, you're able to make ongoing contributions. And so I can only imagine the good that work can do in perpetuity as it continues to feed the fund.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a powerful tool. It's a really powerful tool, and to think about a fund like that can outlast and outlive all of us and still generating dollars that would be employed in the community to benefit the work that these organizations are doing. It's really a pretty humbling thought.
Right. So I need everybody to work real hard to make a lot more money and give it to you so that we can build up all these funds with all these endowments to help our community become a better place.
That's right.
That seems fair. So Raymond, I think you've done an admirable job of explaining Community Foundation and how it works and what it does. What question did I not ask? What do you want to explain to people that you feel like we haven't touched on yet?
Well, first of all, something not about CFA necessarily, but I would like to impress on your listeners that the nonprofit sector is a very important sector. In fact, I like to liken it to a 3-legged stool. You've got business, you've got government, and you've got the nonprofit sector. Personally, I can't stand the term nonprofit. I think it has a very negative connotation. That's for another discussion. But having said that, I think I'd like to impress on your listeners that the nonprofit sectors, those good organizations that are pillars in our community, they need your help. They're challenged this year in particular because of the pandemic. So we want to come out of this stronger than before. So that's one thing I want to impress. The other thing is Community Foundation of Acadiana should never be viewed as an either or. Like I'm going to give my money to Boys and Girls Club or to Community Foundation of Acadiana. We're not in that business at all. We are in the business of satisfying donors' charitable and philanthropic objectives. Generally speaking, we're not the end beneficiary. So folks come to us and set up funds to benefit that which is important to them. It may be confusing to some folks. Why would I need community foundation? Why would I even consider it if I know what I want to give to? Well, we can have a conversation about that. There are a lot of interesting bells and whistles, a lot of interesting structures that can benefit different donors. But the one thing, I guess, is just a reminder that we're not a one size fits all. Everybody that comes to us is different. Everybody's charitable and philanthropic interests are different. Everybody's timelines are different. So what we do is we can customize a product, if you will, that can benefit and satisfy those specific objectives.
I love it. I think that's a great way to explain it, and appreciating that it's not an either or. I think is a great way to look at it, because we need both. We need the boots on the ground organizations that are doing good works right now, and we need the ability to build out these funds and these long-term endowments to continue to do good works for years to come. So you're right. We just have to give twice as much.
Absolutely.
I mean, that seems fair.
Of course. Do the math,
Absolutely. Right. Raymond, I can't thank you enough for making the time today. To everybody that's listening, I hope this has been an amazing educational experience in terms of really understanding what Community Foundation of Acadiana does. If you have a nonprofit, I hope that you will go and set up a page as part of Solar Giving Day so that you can take this time between now and May to get all of your stuff straight and be ready to capitalize on the momentum that day provides. If you have value, assets, worth, and are looking to start a fund, especially with your family, to really teach philanthropic giving and find ways to continue to build out your donations for years to come, gosh knows this is the guy to talk to do that. And if you just have a little money burning a hole in your pocket and you want to give something today, go to their Mighty Cause page, and obviously you know it's going to be put to good use. So you'll need to come back to us in our next hour. We're going to be talking to the Raging Cajun Athletic Foundation, which, talk about somebody who is having a good year, is the Cajuns football team. And we're going to understand what the RCAF has had to do, because I can't imagine that keeping all of those athletes safe and fed and protected in the bubble and paying for all those COVID tests has not been cheap. And their fundraising is definitely down, and they're not able to sell as many tickets or do as many events as well. So we've got a whole lot to talk about there. Raymond, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. It's always great to see you, Jackie. I appreciate the opportunity.
Likewise, neighbor. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I thought we were ending, but apparently Michael did not get the memo. I wonder if he's, as our producer, has stepped away from his desk and is therefore not wrapping up our show in a timely manner.
Oh, look, he's knocking on the door at the Community Foundation.
Probably so. He's got his checkbook in his hand, doesn't he? Oh, wait, hold on. I think he's coming back now. Let's see. Take us to our close so he can play our finishing music and roll us out. Here we go.
To do.